Hello and welcome to this Business Solutions Podcast. I'm Jim Roddy, the president of Jameson Publishing and Business Solutions Magazine. Thanks for joining us. As always, we're here to provide actionable information on how VARs can sell more products, penetrate thriving vertical markets, and improve their business operations. Our discussion topic is mobility's role in the total solution. And our guest today to help give us an inside perspective is Justin Scopaz. He's a general manager and vice president of the data collection and point of sale division for Ingram Micro. Justin, always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Well, thanks for having me here. We are at the Ingram Micro Solutions Summit just outside of New York City. That's where we're conducting this podcast. And a lot of the focus is on resellers adding adjacent technologies, really becoming a total solutions provider. So before we talk about mobility in particular, why was that the focus of this event?
So we have multiple practices at Ingram, specifically mobility, digital signage, physical security, and as you know, data capture point of sale. And the intent was really to pull together the resources that are focused on these technologies, representing different vendors, and create a venue where resellers can come and learn about all of these technologies and what we can do to support them, as well as, and probably most importantly, help the resellers understand how they can support their clients' needs, the end user needs. Where obviously, rarely does an end user just buy one specific technology, right? They have a lot of technology needs, and we pooled this together, this event, really focused around retail, for example, and how to support the resellers' needs, supporting their clients.
Got it. And so let's talk about mobility. So you attended Retail Now this year, the RSPA event, and listened to the technology panel. And so Mike Monticello from BSM was a moderator of that, planned to cover a spectrum of emerging technologies, but the 90-minute discussion was dominated entirely, almost entirely by mobility. So I just want to ask you, this isn't just a 2011 thing, is it? It seems like mobility is really just on the rise.
Yeah, it's here to stay. And I think when it comes to two trends, one's mobility, the other's touch, interactive touch specifically, it's changing the end user interests and requirements, and then ultimately the consumer's interaction with that retailer. So without a doubt, mobility is here to stay, and we're hearing about some very large deployments that are making some noise out there in regards to an iPhone or a tablet. Good news is I think this is bringing a lot of attention to making retailers more consumer-centric, and also some efficiencies. But without a doubt, mobility is here to stay.
Got it. And so you're talking about there's some installs that are just using some of these devices that folks are using every day, or at least a version of them. Is that what you're starting to see?
Yeah, so there are deployments to large retailers in the tens of thousands of units that are going out there today.
Got it. And so let me bring the first two topics we talked about together. So really, where does mobility fit into the total solution? And it seems like what you're saying, mobility expertise is going to be a must-have for resellers if they want to offer that total solution. They can't leave mobility out.
Yeah, I think so. There are a lot of advantages of mobility when it comes to not only the client's experience or the consumer's experience at that end user, but also productivity. So, for example, in a retail environment, having the opportunity to interact with the consumer and not have to leave them. So, for example, you go into a store, you want to buy some shoes, you want to make sure that you can service them right then and there. You can you can look at what they need or help them find a different color. You can help them find a different size and not have to go into the back room to support them. So it puts the person working on the floor at a great advantage and doesn't allow the consumer the opportunity to walk away or try to go to another store to find some help.
Right. When they walk in, they can stay with them the whole time.
They can stay with them the whole time, which dramatically improves the experience, and it also helps them understand that the person working the floor helps them understand what they have available and can try to cross-sell or upsell if they need to.
Got it. And so how would mobility fit into the total solution? So what are you seeing now, installs today versus a few years ago, that if somebody's selling something into retail, that it's not just that point of sale? What are some of the other things that you see added onto that?
Well, when it comes to, I think what VARs need to look at and understand is what mobile products are they selling today, whether it's a data collection device or mobile point of sale unit, and what are some of the new products that are coming out that could either threaten or displace, and how are they positioned with those products and technology and also the vendor supporting them. So, for example, if you look at an iPhone or an iTouch, that could potentially be a threat to some of the data collection devices that are managed today, whether you don't have access to it as a VAR, or it's displacing something that you would have normally sold another data collection or POS device with card swiping capabilities. So from a complete solution standpoint, I think it's critical that the resellers understand their resellers' needs and where their heads are at, because in the past, I think a lot of technology was pushed by VARs to end users, helping them understand how to operate their businesses better. And I think that has shifted a little bit, where the end users are now coming up with what they think they want as a solution. So, for example, a touch device that maybe they have seen elsewhere, or they're now comfortable with because of just the way they operate as a consumer, and now pushing that back to the VAR, asking if they can get help. So from a total solution standpoint, ensuring as a VAR that you understand the technology, you understand what the retailer would want and how to service that, that'll put you in the best position to make sure you can block and tackle against the competition.
And it seems like, to add on to your point, consumers, store managers, just let's say the everyday person who might not be a technology expert, is starting to gain some expertise in mobility because they've got something on their hip that, you know, has all sorts of mobility. Is that kind of the shift that you're seeing?
Absolutely. I think everyone has become comfortable with touch, and it's pervasive, and people are going to expect that experience. And also in the retail environment specifically, people, potentially a consumer, could have more information and technology at their fingertips than the store manager, for example. So making sure you're enabling your end user, that retailer client, to have just as much information, if not more, than what the consumer brings to bear would be critical.
And so how do resellers get the expertise to keep them a step ahead of the store manager, a step ahead of the consumer who, you know, just gets expertise from their devices? How do they stay a step or two ahead?
I think the easiest way to do that is to leverage the relationships with your distribution partner, right? So Ingram Micro, for example, has relationships across the board and expertise in mobility. So we understand the technology, we understand the vendors that are coming to market, some that have been on the scene, some that are coming on the scene, and then the ISV relationships as well. And trying to figure all that out on your own is going to be a challenge, and leverage a resource like distribution and Ingram Micro, where you can come to us to help navigate that.
And so when you say leverage that relationship, so if somebody's listening to this, whether they're an Ingram Micro reseller or they, you know, work with somebody else, what's the way that they do that? Is it just simply calling up their point of contact, or is there more things that they should do beyond that?
Yeah, I think to start, you would want to call up your point of contact and talk to them about what you're trying to achieve, and let, you know, in Ingram's case, for example, we have account executives. So explain what you're trying to achieve with your account executive, and let them work internally at Ingram to find out who we can work with, and also attend events. Like, for example, the event that we're at right now, it's a great opportunity to meet some other VARs and talk to them about what's working or not working, but also whether it's sitting through breakout presentations, listening to some of the panels, or solution pavilions, there's a lot of information that's being shared.
Got it. And so that'll lead me into the final question about, besides gaining, you know, that knowledge and working with the distributor, what actions do you recommend that resellers listening to this podcast, you know, take in regards to mobility? And the theme all this morning seemed to be, if you want to get into a new vertical or a new technology, coming to these events and learning to partner with other resellers, you don't have to become a genius overnight. So what actions beyond, you know, those partnering things would you recommend? Yeah,
so don't do it yourself, right? So leverage other resellers, leverage vendor relationships, and distribution, of course. But also, I would really recommend that resellers understand the opportunities and the threats. So what does mobility mean to them, and how are they currently positioned in mobility? So if they, for instance, don't have a mobility practice, or their mobility practice is specific around data capture legacy devices, understanding what other mobile devices could be pushed into their space and how they're going to react. So is that going to complement what they're doing? And if so, how can they work with that? And if it's going to be a threat, how do they become knowledgeable to try to counter that threat?
Got it. So it's not just knowing about mobility in general, but knowing about, like you said, specifically what's going on in their world, what devices could have an impact and kind of be the next generation. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Hopefully our discussion has given you some good insight on mobility and its role in the total solution. Before we go, I want to say thanks again to Justin Scopaz for joining us today. Justin, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for your time today, and thanks for inviting me here and participating in our panel discussion this morning. And thanks to you so much for listening to this podcast. Our goal at Business Solutions is to provide growth strategies for the IT channel. For more information, please visit our website at www.bsminfo.com. Thanks again for listening, everybody.